bottom two eyes, I saw that guy turn into a reptilian. So I know that he gets overshadowed. The top one, I think, is what I was just talking about.
How long does it take to shapeshift? Is it almost instantaneous? Or?
I've seen it. It doesn't take long.
Yeah.
No. I've never timed it. But
like the Matrix films, I didn't know if it was that quick or if it was like 2, 3, 4 seconds.
The ones that I've seen, it's kind of, you get like this sort of shivering and time goes, I don't know, it's a funny atmosphere happens around it. You get this kind of shivering and then this lighty type thing, and there they are. It can be quite quick, but then other times a bit longer, you know. It's never a long time that I've seen anyway. This was Macquarie Shopping Centre in Sydney. I went there for the first time, and funnily enough, when I'd landed, it was after going to Laughlin in Nevada to the UFO conference, where I'd seen that person shapeshift into a reptilian and his girlfriend, and I'd been psychically attacked all the way through it. The actual floor was moving, all sorts of things were going on for young and old there, that's for sure. But anyway, I had a flight from, my luggage went missing for 6 weeks as well, and I got left with a note from Homeland Security, which is quite cool. Anyway, I landed in Sydney, and the woman who come to pick us up, I saw her eyes turn black. And she was a friend of my daughter's, and very soon after that, they weren't friends, but she showed her true colours. But I got taken to this Macquarie shopping centre, and this is in the middle of the shopping centre, this huge thing to do with time and, you know, cosmos and all the rest of it. And as soon as I walked in, everybody, it was just seething with people, reptilians, like loads of them, and they were strange looking ones, like flat, squashed faces they had. And I kind of thought, well, they remind me of something. I was trying to think, and then I reminded they looked a bit like that Shrek, without the ear holes. But then I found out, because I don't have a TV, so I haven't watched Doctor or anything, but that's what they look like, but not as fat. They look like these things. Slithines, that's it, Slithines. But it was full of them, and they were all pulling carts and all sorts of things, you know. There's just loads and loads of them, and it was like very, very odd. But when I was in Sydney, I saw people in the street shape-shifting. It was just full of reptilians. And when you look at the symbolism that abounds in Sydney, there's like the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and you know, it's the rising sun and the setting sun, whichever way you want to look at it. And next door to it, it's got Luna Park, which is the moon, and there's all sorts of Syrian stuff all around it. It's full of all that stuff, just absolutely crammed with it. And where do they take you on New Year's Eve to have a look at the celebrations? Sydney Harbour, every time. And don't dismiss pareidolia, because I've seen creatures use things like trees and leaves and clouds to form so that they can be manifest in this world, so people can see them. So it's not always just your eyes making sense of shapes. They are using them. I was going to Australia again, and went to Heathrow. I had a little bit of time to kill, so I was just wandering around looking in the shops, etc., and went to the loo, just dazing about really, and came out and everything had changed. It was seething with reptilians, pulling their suitcases, all sorts of things. They were like everywhere. And it was like they knew that I could see them. And some of them, they didn't seem bothered by it, but I'm sure I could hear a snarl here and there as well. But it was like, whoa, you know, and I couldn't wait to get on the plane. Anyway, so I shot down to the departures and eventually got on the plane. when I got on, I sat down in my seat. One of the attendants came up and she said, I'm going to have to move you. And she took me nearer the front, a few rows towards the front, and said, can you sit there? And I didn't know what that was about. And anyway, sat down. And she knelt down next to me. And she was like rubbing my leg. And she's saying, whatever happens, don't be frightened. You're safe. We're looking after you. What's going on here? She got up and walked away. And then I was like, there was a partition, then there was a row of seats, and then I was in that row, and I was in the aisle seat here. On the seat there, this giant reptilian rose up from this bloke and turned around. Right? It looked a bit similar to that one there, but not quite the same. It had some kind of headgear on, and it was like a thick leathery type thing with buckles on around its chest, like an armour type thing. And it was huge, and it got up like that. And it looked like it was going to launch at me. And then I heard in my head this beautiful woman's voice, and it was like, the intonation was just gorgeous. And she said, don't be alarmed. You are very special to us. You are a golden child. We will look after you. And I looked over, and there was this Indian lady, and she had a sari on, and she had a stone on her third eye. And I knew this voice was coming from her. And I looked round, and the reptilian had gone, and the man had gone. And never came back again, that man, and I was completely safe. It was a very odd experience, but yeah, I was looked after. That was another thing with the hospitals, actually. Not last year, the year before, I damaged my back and I was in real agony. And could I get an appointment? This was July I did it. I couldn't get an appointment to even look at me in the hospital until November. I was in flipping agony. And eventually I decided I'd go to England. And I went to see a chiropractor. He said, I'm not touching that, he said, until you've had an MRI. So he said, go and see your local doctor and he'll fix you up with an MRI. And I'll send a letter. He wrote a letter for me to take. The doctor said, I can't refer you. I'll have to send you to the hospital. So to the A&E. So I went to the A&E. The surgeon, they said, you've got to see the physio. So I went to see the physio. The physio said, no, you've got to have an MRI. So back to the hospital again. I went into the A&E and sitting there waiting walked into the A&E. They sent me into this other room where all the cubicles were. There were some nurses sitting at the desk, and behind them was this Indian lady. I'm going all goosebumpy. She looked like the Indian lady I'd seen on the plane. Very, just gorgeous looking woman. And I knew something strange was going to happen. And then she kind of walked out of view, like she'd walked behind the wall kind of thing, like through a door or something. I went into the room, sat on the bed. This doctor came in with probably two doctors, a man and a woman. And he sort of asked me to do these sort of movements, etc. It was killing me, and I was telling him. His eyes turned black. I couldn't make out whether they turned completely black or they were just going like that in a slit, but it was like funny. They went away. They wouldn't give me an MRI. I came out, there was no door for that Indian woman to have walked through. So I don't know where she went. I went to the desk. They said, "Oh, you got to go back to the physio." I went to the physio. They said, "Have you got an MRI done?" And I said, "No." I said, "Oh, we'll have to come with you." So they took me back there again. They insisted I had an MRI. They wouldn't give me one. For some reason, this went on for months. I could not get an MRI. Eventually, I went to the hospital in Windsor to have an MRI. I went in there, and these two people that were running it were really friendly and chatting and that. Then they did the MRI, and they didn't want to know me when I came out. They were like really strange with me. And anyway, they gave me the DVD or CD or whatever it was, and off I went. I got picked up, got in the car. As soon as we left the houses and hit Windsor Great Park, bang, this beam hit me in the head. I had this screaming headache. It nearly knocked me out of my seat. My eyes went really fuzzy. I had a horrible headache. And that lasted for like half an hour and gradually subsided. I phoned the doctor up and I said, is that something that happens with an MRI? They said, "Have you got any metal in your body?" And I said, "Well, who knows? I don't know." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Oh, well, maybe I've got metal teeth or something, I don't know." And he said, "Well, no, that shouldn't happen." He said, "But, you know, let me know if anything else happens." But I'd been hit by something anyway. And that's just a couple of the experiences from hospitals.